Hey everyone, I hope you're hanging in there as you finish up your final exams and your last few days of school next week. You only have 4 more days, and some people even have less than that. We are so excited for you to end out the school year and start summer, and we're also excited to be starting a new sermon series over these next couple of weeks, and it's called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. It is kind of a tongue twister and a very long title, but it's one of my favorites so far. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about Joseph. Now, you may know him from the hit musical Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. But if you aren't familiar with Joseph, don't worry, because we're going to be diving into his story over the next couple of weeks and a little bit later into this sermon. Now, before we get to Joseph's story today, I have a question for you guys to think about. So have you ever experienced a moment where you received really shocking news? I mean, something that simply rocked your world, maybe caught you off guard, made your life feel uncertain, or caused you to feel a little hurt? And I can remember 2 moments in middle school and high school that really turned my world sideways for a while. Now, the first one in middle school was when I had dated my best friend for a little bit, and guys, I recommend you not doing that, because what happened was I broke up with him, and then not even a week later, he started dating my other best friend, and on the same day, they stopped talking to me. So it was really hard because I lost my absolute 2 best friends in the same day, and then I also had to see them in the same small group every week at youth group. It was torture for a long time. And then the other moment was in high school when my parents fought a lot throughout middle school and high school, and finally it got to the point to where one day I finally got the news that they were splitting up. And it wasn't the news that they were splitting up that was so hard, but it was hard knowing that my life had just changed and that it was going to kind of get split in 2, and I was going to have to split my time between 2 people that I loved very much. And maybe you've experienced similar feelings in the past or even recently. Maybe recently you've felt this way when you got the news that school was going to be online for the rest of the semester. Or maybe you found out that a friend or a family member has COVID. Or maybe your parent has lost a job and things are just really hard at your house right now. And I feel like we can all tell an example of a time when your world got rocked by some shocking news or circumstances. And maybe right now for you, that's only something really small, and that's okay too. No matter what the news or loss is, big or small, we've all got something in our lives that causes us pain or heartache or disappointment. And when we're in the middle of it, it's hard to see the bigger picture or know what to do next. And that's why we're doing this series, What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do, because we all find ourselves in situations to where we don't know what to do. And so did Joseph. Now, Joseph is one of the most famous people in the Old Testament. He had some major family drama. I mean, get this. He was the second youngest of 12 brothers. 12. Like 1, 2, 12. Or is it this way? 12. And he was his dad's favorite. And therefore, he got special treatment compared to his brothers. And I mean, come on, the special Technicolor, multicolored coat that he got from his dad. And on top of that, he had a dream that his brothers and even his parents bowed down to him out of respect and honor, and he was going to rule over them one day. And this was just a dream that he had. And because Joseph seemed to have a little bit of a hard time picking up on social cues, he went ahead and told this dream to his family. So basically, his brothers were not okay with him being his dad's favorite, and his brothers were not okay with him sharing his dreams of ruling over them one day, because he was the second youngest brother out of 12, and normally in the old times, it was the eldest that would rule over and be the dad's favorite and the special one, but he was the second youngest out of 12 of them. And so today we're in Genesis 37 to see how Joseph's brothers respond to all of this craziness. So Genesis 37, we're in chapter 37, verse 18, and it says, "But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him." Well, that just escalated from 0 to 60 real quick. But despite his anger towards Joseph, one of his brothers actually tried to do somewhat of the right thing. And so we're in verses 21 through 22 here, and it says, "When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. 'Let's not take his life,' he said. 'Don't shed any blood. Throw him into the cistern here in the wilderness.'" So a cistern is just basically a big well that you drop a bucket into to get water. So it's basically where they go to get water. And so he says to throw them into the cistern here in the wilderness. They're out in the middle of nowhere, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So thank goodness for Reuben, because his brothers actually listened to him, and when Joseph approached, they ripped off the special coat that his father had given him, the multicolored one. I actually don't know if it's multicolored, but that's the famous story, is Joseph in the multicolored coat. But anyways, besides the fact, and they threw him into this well, or the cistern. But there's actually more. They noticed some traders coming, and Judah, another one of Joseph's many brothers, suggests that they actually sell Joseph as a slave to these traders. I mean, I guess that's not as bad as murder, but still not very great. So that's exactly what they do. They trade him off to these traders as a slave, and they even dip Joseph's coat that they stole from him in the blood of a wild animal and take it to their father to tell him that Joseph was likely attacked and killed by a wild animal. I mean, come on, guys. It doesn't get crazier than this. And I'm being a little bit lighthearted, but there was absolutely nothing lighthearted about this situation. We simply cannot imagine the fear, despair, anger, and hurt and uncertainty that Joseph must have felt in these moments. Betrayed by his own family and sold into a very real slavery by the brothers he grew up with. And this was clearly a what to do when you don't know what to do situation that he had gotten himself into. So I know that our stories are very different from Joseph's. We aren't going to be thrown into a well in the wilderness from our siblings at any point in our lives. So let's hope we're not going to be. I mean, fingers crossed that my siblings don't do that to me. But we all experience a pain or loss of some kind. We'll all have those moments that catch us off guard, and moments when life doesn't make sense and we don't have the words to process what's happening. And unfortunately for Joseph, he had more shocking moments in his future. We'll look at some of those in the next few weeks from Bailey and Casey. But I want to highlight 5 powerful words that show up in the historical account of his life. Now, while they don't keep him from getting thrown into a pit, and they don't keep him from getting sold into slavery, these 5 words make all of the difference and helped Joseph maybe more than anything else. Now, these 5 words were, the Lord was with Joseph. Now, that's in Genesis 39:2. So it says, the Lord was with Joseph. Just those 5 simple words. Joseph didn't have a lot going for him in the pit, and even less afterwards. But when Joseph was in despair and wondering how life would turn out, he could rely on a single truth, that God was with him. Now, this truth didn't change the reality of Joseph's situation, but it was better than being alone. And this truth didn't mean that Joseph could see where the story was going, but he could know that he wasn't entirely dependent on himself to get out of the situation. And this truth didn't mean that Joseph could easily deal with the things that happened to him, because these things were really hard, guys. I could not imagine what Joseph went through. And it didn't mean that he had a reason or an explanation for the pain in his life right then, but he didn't have to figure all those things out by himself. And the same is true for you, and the same is true for me. Because when there's nothing you can do and you can't see the bigger picture, we have to remember that God is with us. And whatever pit you feel like you're in, God is in it with you. In whatever circumstance that feels like it's out of your control, whatever loss you're facing in your life right now, God is with you. That's the bigger picture here. the thing that will help you hang on and carry on no matter what you're facing. Now, I know the phrase that God is with you can be a little bit confusing or maybe even a little bit hard to believe right now. I think part of that is because we hear it and think it means that he's going to change your circumstances. And if he's in the pit with us, then that means that he's going to pull us out of the pit and turn things around right then, right? And I mean, that's a yes and a no situation, because God is always working for our good. He never does anything that would be bad for us. He wants what's best for our lives. So when we're facing a loss or a pain of any kind, we can certainly believe that he's working to make those things better in his time. But guys, it may not happen right away, and it may not happen the way that you may think it will. And while we're waiting, God is there with us. If he doesn't pull us out of that pit, he just gets right down there and right down into the pit with us. If he can't bring us out of that pit, then he just gets right down face to face with us. And until things change, we can cling on to the fact that he's right there with us and that we aren't alone. So if you're facing a deep loss, a difficult circumstance, or a painful experience right now in your life, especially with all of these lost and painful things that are going on that are hard to understand or know what to do, here's what I want you to know. When you don't know what to do, remember that God is with you. And we could start by doing these things. First, we could start by being real. Guys, feel your feelings. I can promise you that everyone goes through tough times and pain. All throughout the Bible, people went through difficulties. And there are many accounts of them being very real and very honest with God about their struggles. They didn't hold that back. There are no cliches to make the hard times go away, as much as we want them to be. And our job isn't just to suck it up and act like everything is fine. And if we believe that God is with us, then we should know that God is more than okay with our honest questions, doubts, and fears, because he wants to hear those things. He'd rather you talk to him than you bottle that all up and pretend that everything's okay. He wants to hear that from you. He wants you to feel those feelings and get them out so then you can move on. And 2, remind yourself and each other that God is with you. Here's a spoiler alert. Things did eventually work out for Joseph, but we know that because we can read the whole story in the Bible. But when Joseph was in it, he didn't know how it would turn out. There was no spoiler alerts for him, and all he could do was face another day, wondering how things would turn out, whether they would be good or bad. But he held on to one thing, that God was with him in moments when his life was toughest, and then that's when this reminder is most important. So guys, in moments when life is so hard, that's when this topic is so important to remember that God is with you. He is with you and your story isn't over yet. Remember that. Now, our life will be full of moments when we don't know what to do next. I feel like that's me every day. And this week, as you're remembering that God is with you, keep your eyes open to seeing him in the songs you listen to, or in the trees outside your bedroom window, or in the verses in the Bible you read in the morning. Look for his presence in the way your friends make you feel better, or how your parents take care of you, or how the way your small group leader encourages you on times when it's tough. And all those things are evidence of God's presence with you right here and right now. And it'll help you get through any losses, big or small, that you may be facing. So when you don't know what to do and you can't see the bigger picture, God is with you. And so are we, and so is your small group. And it'll give you hope when things feel hopeless. And it won't make difficult situations go away, but you will have something to count on. And you will know that you're not alone. Will you pray with me? God, I just thank you for those 5 words. The fact that we are not alone and that you are with us. I thank you for stepping into those heavy situations with us and being there with us when you can't take us out of it right away. I thank you for your calming presence and the fact that we have a God that will get down into the dirt with us, and you'll sit there with us in that, because it's so hard to go through difficult circumstances. God, I ask as these students finish their last few days of school, they finish strong and with hope, because summer is coming and it's so close, and they so deserve a break. We love them and we miss them. God, I thank these small group leaders as they go into small groups and they lead our students. I ask that these small groups have good discussion and good time together. In your name I pray. Amen. Okay, guys, I have just a couple announcements for you. Some exciting things coming up this week. First off, we have on Friday our senior celebration drive-through. So make sure you stop by the church anywhere between 6:30 to 7:30. We are going to be doing a drive-through celebrating our seniors. So make sure you come out and drive by and congratulate our seniors on the big day. And then Sunday morning, we're going to be having Grad Sunday. So that is for all of our VPK, 5th grade, 8th grade, and seniors that are all graduating and going into their next level of schooling or wherever they're going in their lives. And we're going to just be able to celebrate them. And also, Sunday morning, it is Water Day. So unfortunately, we can't all meet in person for our fun Water Day that we do to kick off summer every year. But we are doing a Water Day drive-through from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So make sure you come by the church on Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and grab a full bag of goodies that you can take home to do your own at-home Water Day. So that's going to be really fun. And then Sunday night, instead of our normal weekly devos, we're going to be doing a kickoff summer scavenger hunt. So we're going to be having some fun, just hanging out with a whole youth group on Zoom, and we're going to be giving away prizes, and it's going to be a really fun night just to be able to stretch our arms and relax and have some fun to kick off summer. So I hope that I see you to all of those things and that you come out. So don't forget all of that. I hope you all have a great night, and I can't wait to see you next week. Bye, everybody.